welcome back to the Alien Nation. This is part 2 of the metal casting of my Mini-Me's little foot. Here it is. So as you can see, it's looking quite rough on the top and on the bottom, but hopefully I can get that sorted out. And where I added the extra metal at the end of the previous video, it got all of those lips, and of course the base here is a bit too high and bumpy. So hopefully in this one we can sort it out, and I'm quite pleased with the result. So I'm going to go ahead and use this big old file. It's perfectly flat and it's got a nice rough surface, so hopefully can help me power through this. So I'm going to speed through as much of this video as possible. This was like over 6.5 hours to actually get this project complete. As you can see here on the left, middle and the far right there, it's already started to get through quite quickly, and those are what are known as the high spots. So when you're doing any sort of thing like this, you essentially rub down with a wood base. So you have your sandpaper and then you have a block, and that block will reveal all of the high spots, and you just keep rubbing until those high spots are gone and it's all even. And I can assure you the end result is pretty impressive, but I'll keep showing you as we go throughout this video. Alright, so I'm just going to keep working it. And each time inspecting it, as you can see, the hill is becoming significantly flatter and it's really very even. Unfortunately, we've got this hole here where I put the pliers through, and I thought about actually putting a bit of clay around it before I got rid of the hole, or created a worse hole and filling it in with more aluminium. However, after doing this, I thought, no, it's got a lot of character, it's very interesting, and it gives it a uniqueness. It's almost like it's just a casting floor, and I honestly think it looks very good at the end. So anyway, again, I'm just going to work it, and all of this aluminium dust, I actually saved this, and I'm going to recast it for another project later. Now here we go. This is significantly further on. I think I'm about an hour and a half in at this point, and you can really sort of see the detail coming out and the quality of the flatness. You can see that it's damn near perfect, the base of it. However, the top looks monstrous. It is shockingly bad, however interestingly detailed. And so I'm just going to go ahead and turn it around there a couple of times, let you have a little bit of a look. So on top of all of those pits and things on top, that was actually caused from steam bubbling through the clay that it was cast into. We had those lips all the way around the side. Now I tried to use these pliers and I struggled, and I went from the pliers back to the large chisel, and then I decided to try it again. So I went back to these things, and I actually managed to take off most of the edge lip, and then I go back to the file, and it just sped things up significantly. Now yes, there we go. You can actually see all the little chips and things. I'm going to go ahead and save these now. I'm just going to pour this back into the mold. And this mold, every time it gets heated and something cast into it, it seems like oil excretes. If you know what that is, do put in the comment section. But yeah, it's only had a couple of castings actually put into it, a bit of extra aluminium. However, I'm just storing it in there for now until the next firing. But yeah, I would have been using power tools, which I do have. However, I'm kind of restricted by noise, because during the day the little guy is sleeping at certain points, and using power tools for sort of 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there really wasn't effective. So I thought, I'm just going to power through this nice, quietly, you know, put a podcast on in the background, and yeah, it actually became sort of therapeutic, really did. So here we go. You sort of see I'm getting up and close and personal with the front toes here. Now there is a bit of the second toe. There's quite a bit of definition from the first toe, as you can see. And the funny thing is it looks like it has sort of an outline for the far little toes, but they were actually lost in the original casting. So where it actually flowed out, it almost created a natural sort of point as to where the toes would be, and almost to where the shape would be. And I try and use that to my advantage and shape it more as it would be in real life. So it actually benefited me in the end. So I'm just going to put it on this little turntable I got. So I got this little turntable essentially so I can use a lot of that clay, which, so the clay I used for casting this foot in the previous video, go ahead and check that out. I'll put a link to that in the description. However, I actually got this thing because the clay, I put too much clay into the sand mix. It should have been like a 80-20, so 80% sand, marine sand, and 20% sort of cat litter clay, like unscented. It's just normal clay. A lot of people don't know that, but I actually went 50-50, so it's more like a casting clay. Not this sort of casting, but like making bowls and pottery and things. So I got this little thing and I thought, hey, I'm actually going to try and do maybe something like that in the next video and make like a larger crucible for bigger projects. So I want to do a Mjolnir, a Thor's hammer. Anyway, here we go. We're spinning it around. That is nice close up and detailed. You can see a lot of the work which has been done already, because the shiny bits is where it started to flatten out. And no, I wasn't just chiseling away at it. I was sort of curving, but to help me to not lose too much detail, I got these two little files here, and I'm actually going to do my best to sort of work away at the toes and bring just a tiny bit of detail into that, because there's not a lot there, but anything that you can just take away just a little bit and add in some detail would really help. And that's really what I try to do while spending all the time on here. And of course all the curvature and such, which maybe I lost a bit of the detail with the large file, I try to regain that. Now what I'm doing here is I'm starting off with a very coarse sandpaper, and I'm just going to go through several of them, working my way up to 500. As you can see, this is the 60 grit, which is extremely coarse, and I'm going to do this. So I'm starting on the bottom and I'm going to work my way from 60 to 500. However, we're going to start with the bottom, and then after that we'll move to the top, and you'll see the results are, well, they're astounding, but unfortunately it takes an awful lot of time, effort. This is what we call sweat equity. You know, so it's personal time and effort invested. And you can really see now, look at the bottom of that. Not only is it very shiny, but it's perfectly flat. And now we're just increasing the quality of the finish. And that's what I want. I mean, this is when my son was 3 months old, and this thing could essentially last forever. I mean, the only way to destroy this really is to sort of go out of your way with a big hammer and a chisel, or to try and melt it at over 660 degrees. And I can assure you that's a lot harder than it sounds. So yeah, just moving up through the grits here. So it's getting finer and finer, and I've actually added a bit of water, or I should really say tea. That's all I had at hand. I couldn't be bothered to go and get water. It doesn't really matter. Tea is essentially water. I've just wiped it off, and look at that. That is insanely polished. And in fact, that is shinier than when I add polish at the end. So what I'm going to have to do after this video is revisit the polish on this. I won't record it or anything, it'll be too short. But when I get a chance, there we go, we're moving up to 240 grit now. Sorry, moving from 240 grit up to, I think, potentially 500? Yeah, there we go, 500. So what I'm going to do is actually use tea. There we go, there's me using the tea on the next one. So I'm going to polish the foot up after the fact, and then actually just put it in a little cabinet I have in my living room. So I have like a lot of collectibles and valuable things like Transformers and things, the originals. So this is going to sit on the top glass shelf. Anyway, getting back to the more important stuff that you want to know about. So essentially, I'm just popping the foot onto the water, the tea, and I'm moving up and down, then wiping it off. And what that's doing is that's allowing me to get a much cleaner, much more highly polished finish. And of course, I'm now pointing at the top. That means we're going to move over to the top. So as I've gone, I've actually folded them all over, split them, as we can see there, and then I'll do it again and just repeat and repeat and repeat. And yeah, you only need small bits for such a small project. But again, it's just time and effort. So if there's any interesting project like this you want to do, go ahead, try it. You don't even need like a proper casting furnace like I used in my previous video. You can actually use like a baked bean tin. So that's the steel one. Get a magnet to check that. And when you actually go over that, what you do is you put it into, say, a campfire or something. Put lots of aluminium cans. That's probably the most recyclable thing. You know, there's always lots laying around, and just pop those in there and then just cast it out into whatever you want. That's sort of the quick, easy backyard way of doing it. But for the safe way of showing you guys how to do something cool, this is kind of what I'm doing. So we're just flipping it over, and as you can see, there's lots of sort of cracks and it looks like deep scratches and scarring, and they're very dark on the inside. And I do quite like the character. However, I did feel at this point that there was a little bit too much, almost like it looked dirty or unworked. That's just not the case. But I do actually move over to like a wire brush to try and get in there, and I do manage to get a good amount out while still leaving a good amount of detail. So anyway, here's a nice close-up, and you can now see how considerably polished even all of the curves are and the detail. And of course I grabbed that wire brush I was just speaking about, and it's just going to change the edge of the quality, the look of this, and come closer to what I was hoping for. So although I didn't get that perfect cast the first time, and the original 3-month-old clay cast is actually now broken, the mold, this is sort of forever, and it does look cool. I think it looks very interesting, and I treasure it. So here we go, we're moving over to the polish, and like I was saying earlier, I wasn't super happy with the finish here, so I will go back over it in the near future with a power tool. However, I think it looks pretty good. So we're kind of in the home stretch now. I'm just giving it a final run over, re-inspecting it, giving you a nice old close-up here. I've got to be honest, this thing is seriously smooth and shiny. And just as a little bit of an interest point, in case anyone is interested, it actually weighs 94 grams. So it's a tenth of a kilogram. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.